Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Creatives Ignite. And I am here with my new friend, Katie Merrien. And Katie is in the UK, and I met her because of my friend Pippa. Pippa had met her at a networking event. But then I met with Katie, and her story blew me away. Like, she has energy that you would not believe, but she also she doesn't let challenges come in, but she doesn't let them stop her. She just sees ways around it. And I love the way she thinks. Her brain works differently. And she is professed neurodivergent, right? Like I have ADHD, so I'm right there with you. But the way her brain works, and she is magnet. When I've heard her story, and you guys will hear this in a little bit, but she has a magnetism to that I felt like, just as a listening to her, I was like, oh my goodness, I want to be friends with you, because I can see how people would continue to want to work with you, continue to make, hey, could you do this, or give you opportunities, and stuff like that has happened. And I think that sometimes people as entrepreneurs, we need to remember that we can actually have some sort of a connection to people. If we are open to doing more things, we can find, or if we're open to helping them. And Katie, that kind of, to me, I just love your story. So I don't want to take anything away. Katie, give us a little bit of your background, where you are, what you do now, and then we can go into the nitty gritty of the background. But who you are and where you live and what you do right now.
Sure, thank you. That's such a kind introduction. So hi everyone, I'm Katie. I am in Brighton in the UK, so nice and seasidey. You might hear some seagulls in the background at some point, really, like, I don't know, setting the environment or whatever. So now I have my own business, Communicate Design with a K, because I love a pun. And I have been doing that for 5 years, and I am a visual communicator. So I create animations, I do graphic design, infographics, something called graphic recording, which is something we're going to be delving into a little bit today. And all my work is focused around accessibility and inclusion. So I tell people I guess in a nutshell, I get to color in for a living, which is joyful. And yeah, I think that's me.
I love that. So when did you start on your own? Like when did your entrepreneurial journey begin?
2019. So I'm coming up for 5 years in my business, which is really cool. Definitely gonna get a cake. I feel like I need to get a cake to celebrate. Any excuse for a cake, to be honest. Definitely. Just be me and my party hacks and my business of one. But yeah, it was 2019, a little bit by accident. And my background's in something completely different to what I do now. So I've worked in lots of different places before now.
So tell them about, like, when you weren't from Brighton originally, right? You moved to Brighton and you started working. So kind of give them a little bit, because you have such a beautiful story. So tell them a little bit about how you got to be willing to do some of the jobs that you were asked to do.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, I guess my story starts somewhere slightly less beautiful, no offense, but Bognor Regis, just along the coast, in the UK. For those of you that don't know it, it's not the most exotic of places. I think there's a fish and chip shop, and that's kind of it. But I was 18, so I'd finished school. I'd done my A levels. I'd done quite creative A levels, and I didn't really know what to do with those. I was thinking about going to university, but I couldn't decide what I wanted to do. I was thinking about fashion design at the time, which is kind of hilarious. I've done lots of little sketches of like quirky t-shirts, and I thought, oh, maybe I can do that. But then going to look at universities, I thought, not so sure. So then I'd come to Brighton, like historically, kind of doing shopping, as like a teenager or whatever. And I thought it'd be a really cool place to move. And then a friend of mine was going to move here anyway for university. So I moved with her. That's 18, didn't really know what to do. I sent out a bunch of CVs. I think I had one response, like I went around like handing them out kind of thing, because I'd worked in retail while I was at school, just doing like clothes shops and stuff. But then I didn't really get any responses. So I went and signed up at a temp agency. And from there, I got assigned to do lots of different kind of very short-term contracts at different offices and bits. And one day I spent just making up boxes at a company, just like literally just folding cardboard boxes for a day. So really have tried all the things. And then I got offered 2 jobs on the same day. that were like permanent jobs. So one was at a super cool clothing shop, and the other one was at a council, which didn't sound as exciting, but I got to sit down and the pay was better. So I was like, that's the one, the sitting down one. So that's kind of how it started. Laziness, maybe.
The council one for us in the America and maybe Maya in Norway. Council, is that like a government, like a city kind of job?
So this one was actually a specialist council that looked at education. So it was at the time called the Learning and Skills Council. And they were focused on education for people that had lower levels of literacy and language. And they were kind of encouraging adult education for people that wanted to get those qualifications later in life. So it was UK wide from what I can remember. So a council that was definitely like doing lots of good, you know, kind of like supporting people, which was really lovely.
Right. So, yeah. So like a non-profit, we would call that. Is that maybe?
I think they were still government funded, but they had specific like funding grants they were using to provide educational courses for adults that wanted to kind of get those sort of low, I guess more standard level qualifications.
So were you an artsy kid? Were you a doodler?
Doodling, I definitely was quite an artsy kid. I mean, I did art at school, and I did like media studies and things as well. And I did textiles. That was, say, what I thought I wanted to do. Kind of like, I've always been quite creative in that way. I guess I used to sew, I was sewing my own like clothes over time. That sounds a lot fancier than it is. In reality, it's basically just a massive t-shirt with 2 pockets made out of a duvet cover. And I'm like, that's a dress. That's definitely a dress. But yeah, I think historically maybe more collage. I think interior design is one of my like key passions. And I remember making collages out of the Argos catalogue, which is like a very much a UK thing. It's like a big free, I guess your equivalent would be like Target, maybe, if they had like a massive catalogue. Yeah. Like ripping out pages of that and being like, this is what my bedroom's going to look like. It's going to be amazing. Yeah.
Okay, so from there you offered 2 jobs. They had just received your CV and they were responding.
So the CV I'd handed in to the cool clothing shop, and I'm pretty sure you shouldn't be allowed to do this, but you also had to send in a photo for that one as well, which felt very not okay. And the CV that went to the council was sent via my temping agency. So yeah.
So you get these. Are you still 18 at this point?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so 18. Then what was the council job? You were going to be able to sit down. Did you know what you would be doing?
Yeah, it was administration. So it was kind of admin support for a team there. So it was meetings, taking minutes, I you know, that kind of thing. I hadn't really done a lot of stuff like that before in an office, but I think they had a bunch of CVs come in and they decided that I was the one. Maybe I've got an English A level, so maybe they thought that'll do. You know, she's working with words, she'll be fine. So, and then I'd done some temping.
In school, when you were our equivalent of high school at the end of all your schooling, what were you? You decided not to go to university, but what were you like? Were you really good? Did you take great notes in your classes? Was that something that was all like? We're both neurodivergent. So sometimes I can be like, bing, I'm off. And I was not paying attention to whatever the teacher was saying. But I also, if I was interested, if it was a good teacher, I could take good notes, but I didn't really know how to take notes, to be honest. Like if they had told me, like, if they're repeating it, write it down. That must be important. You know, like there are 9 cues, I guess, that we use. But if somebody had clued people in on those 9 clues, that would have been helpful. But it didn't mean that I was, because I wasn't trying to get every word down. But was that something that you were always good at and you scored good in school? Because A levels in English must have been.
Yeah, I think I was very lucky. I guess I got good grades throughout school. I was like you, I think, in that if I didn't find it interesting, I wouldn't necessarily pay attention and I'd try and find a way to get out of it. I remember in science GCSE, in physics, they were teaching us how to wire a plug. And I was like, I don't care. So I got one of the boys next to me to like wire the plug for me, basically. So I still can't do that. I'm sure it's not that hard. Like, I'm sure I could have learned, and it's colorful. Maybe I'd have really enjoyed it, but I was like, I don't care. Nick, can you wire my plug for me? Thanks, Nick. Whereas like, if I did enjoy it and pay attention, I would take notes. I think writing stuff down, because my memory doesn't seem to be great. So writing stuff down is how I remember things. And I remember studying for my GCSEs. I think most of the subjects, I felt like I felt like I was pretty confident going into those exams. But my history one, I had scored much lower on my tests throughout the year than the other subjects. So I really focused on studying for that one. And that one, I found the best way to study, actually. I wrote my notes out over and over again, but each time I made them more succinct. I remember going to study with my, the day of the exam, and I'd gone from like six, A5 notebooks from out the year to one little one, with kind of like shorthand in it that I guess I kind of created for myself and put little highlights in and stuff. So I don't have that notebook anymore, and I probably can't remember any of the history, but I'm sure it looked lovely. And that one, I think from that repetition of the writing down, I definitely kind of absorbed that information more than maybe the other subjects as well.
That's cool. That's a good way. So, but it's what I always tell my students when I'm in class. I'm like, this taking note thing, you have to continue it when you have clients, because you need to write down what your thoughts are, or a question that you need to ask them, or what they're saying, or even like, whoa, they just reacted really poorly with their facial expression to this, and maybe you don't want to write all those words down, but you need to be able to pick up on those visual cues that the client is giving, especially if it's not a verbal cue, right? Like when a client reacts and they're like, oh, I love it, or, like you have to be able to pick up on that. And I think some of that is really it can be a superpower. So you get this job, and how long did you end up? I can't remember this, because I know one company you were at for like, they were like, okay, you wanted to leave, and they were like, no, we're going to make you a position. And then you did something, and you kept just moving up and using and really getting new skills. But also they saw that you could just sit next to something, and you're like, I'll figure it out by lunch. And you would. And so to me, it's like, maybe that's why you had Nick do the plug. You're like, I can figure this out on my own. So what was this? When, tell us a little bit about how we get to that position.
You're right. That this council one was the one where I think I'd been there for a year and a bit. And I think part of, I guess, probably my neurodivergence is I do stuff really quickly, whether that's talking. So hopefully I'm not talking too fast today, or kind of processing or figuring stuff out. So I've been there for about a year and a bit, and I basically was getting all my work done in very short windows of time. Probably shouldn't be admitting, they used to pay me to a salary for the whole time, but I ended up spending a lot of time on Facebook as like a teenager, basically. And my boss was like, have you done your work? I'd be like, yeah. So I wanted to go and do something else. So I wanted to go and find something that was a bit more challenging. And I went to an interview, and I came back and said, I've just gone for a job interview. And then a sort of, a conversation happened or whatever. And then the next day I came back in, and he took me into the meeting room, and he said, we don't want you to leave. There's this position opening up. And then he did that really cool thing they do in the movies where they like slide a piece of paper across the table with an amount of money on it. And he was like, I probably should pay you this, but I'm actually going to pay you this. And I was like, okay, I will stay for, I don't think I sold out, but I was like, I will stay for this amount of money. That's great. Because as a, like a 19-year-old or whatever, that very exciting. That's a lot of, club nights or whatever it is that I wanted to spend that money on at the time. So
what I loved about that, one of the things about that story in particular, is that you would, and this happened multiple times. It wasn't just once. What I heard you say is you liked the challenge. You were getting bored. You maybe didn't use that word, but you were getting bored. You were getting all your work done. You were looking for another challenge. You want to do this for someone. You want to help the companies that you're working for. But if there's not anything challenging, if they can't, then you're going to fill your time with something else challenging. You're going to figure something else out to do. And there was a story that you told me. They were like, I think it was, they had given you a program. They had this, and maybe this is later on in the council, but they were like, we don't know. We've been working on trying to figure this thing out. Like some people, that was like, they were going to have to start using it because you were just good at figuring things out. So this is, to me, design thinking. Like you get to help the user, which is not going to be your job. This, to actually use this program, was not going to be something you were going to be doing. But I loved this story. Do you know which story I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think, yeah, you've got the chronology absolutely right. So this was the next. So the new job with the slid piece of paper, slid piece of paper, that's hard to say, um, is yeah, so I start this job and it turns out this is like writing contract letters. There's a team of us. This is a national thing. It's a team of us that are writing these letters. And I'm probably going to get in a lot of trouble. I'm glad the Learning and Skills Council doesn't exist anymore. And I'm like, also, basically what happened was I joined this team. There's like 6 of us. We spend every day writing these letters to clients and so on. And I was like, guys, you know about mail merge, right? Like, I mean, I grew up in the time where like IT kicked in when I was at high school. It's like, Word's got this thing where you can just like plug in and generate letters. So I basically made us all redundant overnight, but we didn't actually get made redundant. So then I was like, what else can I do? And then we had this funding grant that that was, again, another national scheme that had been given to us. And as part of this, we had to do monitoring and return kind of, I think it was quarterly figures on what we'd spent this on and which, how many people we'd trained and all this kind of stuff. But it was all on this online platform that no one had ever used before. And so I basically was like, right, and just logged on and started pressing all the buttons. I was like, I can't send the money back. I can't delete everything. That's like, those are the 2 things that could go horribly wrong. I'm just going to try pressing all the buttons and see what would happen. And somehow it went from that to being asked to go up to national office and like train everyone else on it when I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. So, but I managed to figure it out, trial and error, basically. Knowing, I guess I had that safety net of, I can't actually mess this up. I'm just working out the best way to report on all this information and then going and teaching other people as well, which I think felt very, very grown up at the time, I guess. I was like, got my smart first work skirt, kind of thing, like, and getting to go up to, I think it's the likes of Coventry to do this training thing.
But it was also that those people didn't know how, but they also didn't have time to just figure things out. You also, this is one of your superpowers that you're like, ooh, I want to try. I want to figure this out. Even in contracts, you were figuring out, like, there are other ways to be doing this because have your hand and you're listening to other things. Your hands going in lots of buckets, figuring things out. I think that is one of the things that makes you so irreplaceable. Now my sister's calling me. I swear I've been doing this. Oh, today is our 12-year anniversary for the podcast. So it's good. My sister's calling. I was telling Katie, like, my husband scheduled something at this time. We do it at this time for the last 12 years every Wednesday. And I want to thank you so much for being here, y'all being here for so many times. And Katie, for you being here to celebrate 12 years with me. But it's funny, my sister calls. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've know my sister my whole life. So, and my husband for a lot of my life. So, okay, back to this. So what I want to just point out and think about for everybody that's here or everybody that's listening, what is something that is like that people tend to come to you for that you may not have known this was something that you could do? Because your boss knew there was something more to you than just answering the phone and working the front desk. Mm-hmm. So much so that when Katie went and got an interview, not a job yet, but just interviewed, was like, no way, this girl is so irreplaceable. We got to find something else for. I'd love to know what you guys think is that thing for yourself. If you're watching on YouTube, you can put it in the chat. But if you're here live, you can just put it in the chat too. But Katie, for you, did you know that was something like figuring things out, that you were really fast at that and able to teach? Because at 19 or 20, going to teach something that you've just figured out is pretty impressive. I mean, and really is hard for a lot of people to do, just even standing up in front of people to tell people, or even just one-on-one, like going over to Joe's desk and showing Joe how to use the program.
Yeah. I don't think I was fully aware of maybe the speed at which I solve problems being unusual. I think it's only probably in the last 10 years or so I've suddenly realized I work at a different speed sometimes to some other people. But I think the training part was, so now as an adult and for my business, I've taught myself to do all these different things. And as you say, like through my career, maybe I have, but before that, one of the things I actually worked on was confidence. At school, I was incredibly shy. If I had to answer the register, I would just turn bright red. And, they call the register every class. So like you got 5 times a day where I'm like, oh my goodness, please don't look at me. But when I was like 17, 18, starting to leave, sixth form and stuff and starting to work, in jobs in retail and so on as well, you have to talk to people. And that was, a very daunting prospect. But I basically practiced being confident. And it turns out that, because I tell people this now in terms of if I meet people that say they're not very confident or they're going to networking, which I've started having to do. And I find that really daunting at first, but now I'm fine with it. But if I meet other people that feel a bit intimidated by that, I'm like, well, just pretend to be confident. And eventually like pretending becomes real eventually, because you get more used to it and you have those experiences build up where you think, actually, that wasn't so bad after all. And also, no one is so confident they will go up to someone else and be like, I don't think you're really confident at all. So no one's going to call you out on it. No one's that bold that they're going to be like, I think we're all faking confidence here. So yeah.
So it's also just like you did in that figure this out, Katie. It was like, I can't screw it up. I can't lose the money. I can't delete everything. It's like in networking, nobody's going to call you out and you're like, you aren't that confident, right? Nobody's going to say that. But one of the things that you had shared, and it was one of the graphics that I used as one of the promos, was in a networking. So Pippa's here. So, hey, Pippa, thanks for introducing me to Katie. But it was kind of like a little sketch note or a graphic recording for yourself, I think, of what people did. And it was like, obviously one person was like real estate because they had a little house and a for sale sign in the front, right? And then, so was that something you were doing in between meeting people, or is this after when you're on your way home, or when do you put that stuff like in a networking event? Because I know Pippa saw your sketchbook and she's like, you got to meet my friend Diane. My friend Diane's going to want to see your sketches.
Yeah. Do you want me to share? I think
sure.
One. So just in case anyone hadn't seen it, let's see if are we seeing that?
Yeah, that's it. We see it.
Amazing. So this one I actually did live at the event. So this networking group that I'm part of, it's a really amazing group in Brighton that supports women working in business. We get a chance, everyone has 60 seconds to introduce themselves and their business. So I do this live in 60 seconds per person. So listen, think of an image, like remember how their name's spelled, and then do a little drawing, basically. But it's kind of my party trick now in some ways. I don't think I have many other, like, I can't like roll my tongue, or I don't know, like what everyone else to do with a party trick. This is my one, I guess, for networking. So I don't do it at every event I go to, but if I'm at a one-to-one meeting or I'm at a networking like this where we're all kind of sitting down and introducing ourselves, I find that a really helpful way of remembering like who was there and what they do. And also, I think I'll stop sharing this now. But I think because my work's so visual now, and because I'm self-taught in all of it, I think that it probably ties in with my problem-solving, like creative way of kind of fixing something. But going to talk to people and saying, "Can I come and work for you?" or "Have you got anything that you think we could collaborate on?" I realized when I first started this that I couldn't go to them with my actual CV, because that's got a whole history of working in the NHS and local councils on it. They'd be like, how can you come and work for us? This doesn't say animation on here anywhere. But if I took them an animation that I'd made about me, then I could be like, look, this is what it is. So, and kind of show them. So I guess my graphic recording is a similar thing that it's a good kind of muscle to work and practice and whatever anyway, doing that, because it's a lot less intimidating doing those notes at meetings than when I'm doing it on a big piece of paper on the wall, probably about the same size as that big rectangle behind me, normally that kind of size. So it's a good practice. And also, if someone isn't a visual thinker, even if I explain to them, I turn words into pictures, it's kind of hard to imagine what that could look like for some people. So it's much easier for me to go, look, like this is your business, this is what you do, and this is what whoever does, like Gemma or whoever. So yeah.
So then going from in your notebook and just you, because sometimes at the council you would take notes, minutes of meetings, right? And then you would retype them up for everyone and put them out. And now you would do something like this, but now it's with pictures and notes, probably, right?
Yeah.
And that people pay you to go. And I mean, this is a whole, if you haven't heard, graphic recording is a whole another industry where, especially like at conferences or at long meetings, this is really helpful, because then it helps to the participants, the other people who are trying to take notes but don't take notes like Katie, now have something to go back to, and it does help in their remembering and processing of the information. So it helps. I mean, there's so many advantages for graphic recording, even when you're reading a book. So even if you're just taking in information, but doing it when someone's live, and you're doing it live and they can see you doing it big, is really cool as well. But you also do animations, but a lot of these have to go back to teaching in a way, like you're communicating information in another way that's more palpable, or it's easier for people to take in and understand, which I love this. And we talked about this a lot. You were like, we're trying to tell people this, and they're using all these things. You're like, you're making it too difficult. We've got to make it easier if you're trying to get person A to do action, B, because it doesn't make sense. So, and that's what, as designers, that's what we do. We are thinking, we are solving those kind of usability or user experience problems. And really, that's what you've done. That would be on your CV, every single thing. That is the common thread, but you are able to take really, there was a image that you shared about painkillers, right? And that can be a really, because a lot of the stuff that you had done was health related or education related. It was some things that weren't, it was kind of like maybe history was for you in school. It was a little bit bland. And so you've found a way to make, and that I think is a really big problem for us as designers, but you found a way to make it more palatable and more digestible for the particular audience. How do you think, how does somebody get better at that, understanding how to make something more palatable? Is it something that just comes naturally to you?
So I think simplifying information, I guess, is something that I did, throughout my career, taking the minutes, actually, because it's something I had never done before. I obviously took notes at school, but taking minutes in public meetings is a very different thing. And you can't really ask people to go back and repeat themselves in a public setting like that. So you have to just scribble at the speed of light, like smoke coming off your pen or off your keyboard or however you choose to take it. I did take a shorthand course as well when I started doing that to help me kind of take notes more quickly. But then when I'd be typing them up, I would look at a way to kind of reduce that information to just the key points. I think my minutes were still probably longer than quite a lot of my peers' minutes, because I would still manage to get all the detail down, I think, just from doing that stuff really quickly. But I'd always try and keep in mind, and I think I do the same with my graphic recording now as well. There's a whole different range of approaches to graphic recording, and obviously I only know the one that I've kind of figured out for myself, but there's, as I say, lots of different people practicing in lots of different ways, and they're all equally valid, I think, and useful.
Can you describe your way?
Yeah, so I suppose that my way reflects my minutes in that I try and capture all of the conversation, basically, because I want people to be able to come to that recording, that drawing, all those minutes, if they weren't at the meeting, and not only see the outcomes, but see how they were reached. Because I think if you're making a decision about something that's important, if someone wasn't at that meeting, they would go, well, did you think about X, Y, and Z? And if you haven't written down if they did think about those three things, someone might think, oh, that decision wasn't made very, thoroughly, or whatever it might be. And also, when I think I'm doing the recording, especially with a lot of the events that I go to, where it's focus groups or participation by service users or members of the public, all of their input is valid. So I want to make sure I'm capturing all of that, all of their thoughts and ideas, and I think that I have maybe a natural filter for figuring out what's important in some of those conversations, which is a lucky thing because I'm going to events about subjects sometimes I know nothing about. I'm coming in with a blank piece of paper and no knowledge of the event itself, which is fun. And that's how I like to work, because then it's a very authentic capturing of the day. But I try and pick out the important information, but I don't know what that organization is then going to take away from that as the key part for them about what they want to do to, make change or improvement or feedback to people. And it's also really fun. I find, more so than when I used to take written minutes, now I do the graphic recording. I think there's something psychological about it. It encourages people to participate, even if they wouldn't normally, because they're really intrigued what I'm going to draw. So,
and they want to be part of that conversation, right? Or they want to be remembered as being part of that conversation, because it's not just taking the notes. I love that you said you were capturing the conversations, because sometimes a meeting can be very one-sided. One person's running the meeting, but a lot of times it's like other people are chiming in to present whatever they're presenting. And I love that it's the conversation. So you're asking and you're recording that, which I do think is very different, but it is very valuable. And it is hard to do because and size wise, show us the size of your sketchbook that you normally, if you're not working on the wall, what size sketchbook are you using? Is it really big?
So
small?
This is my one. I mean, I have also got massive hands for context. So I've got bigger hands than anyone else I know. So that probably doesn't help. But because I'm very tall as well, so which probably doesn't also suit the sketchbook. But this is, I think, a slightly taller, but about A5, Moleskine, I think it is, that I've just had lying around basically. So this is what I use for my personal notes. I've got some other examples I can show everyone in a bit in here. But
is it blank paper? Is it?
It's not, and I probably should be more precious about that. So, well, it's almost blank. So actually, this one is a notebook I bought when I started learning how to do graphic recording, but I tried doing it digitally. So this one is some kind of witchcraft going on here, basically, where you can draw on it with a pen and it record the computer knows what you're doing.
Yes.
I don't know. So it's pretty much blank. It's got, I think you could email it to yourself. So every page has got a tiny little little icon in the corner. But this is the one that, so I've had this. This is some of my first attempt at doing graphic recording. So this is when I was still working for the NHS about 5 or 6 years ago. That's my first one. So a few pictures and in biro, but a lot of written information.
And you're writing fairly small for which I think is key for people who are wanting to do this. When you were starting, is that standard of how you normally would take small, you would write small?
So this is quite an odd story, but my handwriting has gotten smaller over time, because my handwriting, I remember when I was in junior school, it used to be quite big and round. And so I remember doing my homework in start of secondary school, and everyone would be like, well, of course you wrote 4 pages. Your writing's really big. And I was like, I just clearly had a lot to say. But I was like, okay, so my big handwriting is a problem. So I basically stole the handwriting of several girls that I was friends with. I was like, oh, I really like the way she does her E's, and I really like the way she does her whatever. So it's basically an amalgamation of all these lovely, smaller, really lovely, curly handwritings that I've seen. And now I guess that's been mine for 20 years. Hopefully, plagiarism.
No, I think, but that is how we take on other aspects, I like the way this looks, or I don't like the way this looks. Stealing handwriting, he says, a typographer at heart, and he says, absolutely. I love that you write small, Katie. And I think a lot of people, I don't think that is the typical but I think that's one of the things that makes you a great graphic recorder, is that we're not wasting so much time making these big marks. You're getting that house down, or that other, even a pie chart down, because you're able to take down the information. So looks like you're using a pen. Are you using a pen?
Yeah, so I am. So, and actually it's something I've I think over time with practicing, I did take a pencil to one the other day, but in general, I do it all with a pen. I do have I have stickers I take with me that are plain white to put on my big pieces of paper in case I make a mistake. I've only had to use a sticker once ever. And I think the rest of the time, because my drawing's super wonky, I just, as long as someone can tell if it's a house or a banana or a set of scales or whatever it might be, then it's fine. So yeah, so this is the pen I use now in my notebook. I use like a black biro kind of pen.
But it's pretty small. It's not a really thick
no.
right?
Yeah, so I think so I can still get the detail of it basically. So you can see like these are some of my notes from like networking events and things that I've been to.
So lots of images, not so much text on some of them.
I think over time I've kind of graduated to just taking just notes around like visual notes and stuff wherever I can basically. So this is from a workshop where I went where they were presenting an animation that I'd made. So I went along to kind of take notes on people's feedback and stuff. But again, just doing it visually is I also find it more interesting to look back on when I'm kind of looking back and thinking, you know, what were people saying and like, how can I improve or what do we need to do next or whatever. So
5 years ago, if that's when you started your business, you obviously had been practicing, maybe not graphic recording or learning about it before then. When did you start learning or when did you start taking notes and practicing the graphic recording before you started using it as something that you were offering?
About 2018, about a year before, I think.
Okay.
Maybe. So that's probably the case for all the stuff I offer, though I didn't do any of that before about 2018. So I happened to be working by that point. So council job, did that one, moved over to the NHS, and then I was doing governance and program management and so on. And then I basically had this thing where I really wanted to go and work somewhere with bean bags and table football. And like, there's someone a bit cool. Loads of my friends are working in these really cool agencies that had like fake grass instead of carpet. And I was like, I want to do that. How do I get to do that? And I found this NHS organization that had fake grass and table football, but they were still NHS. So I knew I could do the work rather than trying to start something completely different without any kind of experience. But I moved across there, and they were really creative organization in themselves. And that's when my boss showed me a graphic recording. I'd never seen anything like that before. He said, oh, I think you'll like this, and showed me this paper with this lovely visual summary of an event that had happened. And I was like, I want to have a go at doing that. How do I do that? So I started doing it at meetings, and that's what I did. So in my notebook at the time that I had at my work, by that point, I was not responsible for taking the minutes in meetings anymore. I was kind of more senior, kind of within the room. So I knew someone would be capturing the actual outcomes of the meeting if needed, but it was a really good chance for me to have a practice at like doing all my wonky drawings and figuring out in my head, kind of probably started building that like visual library almost in my head of like icons and how they apply to different concepts and so on as well. I remember one of my earliest ones was a Kit Kat, because I think we had a break in the meeting. So I don't know if you have the same tagline over there, but break, have a Kit Kat. I was like, that's, yeah. So I don't draw biscuits as often anymore, but yeah, that was one of my first ones. And that was just for me, like having a practice.
So that was you using your normal day or things that were happening in your day to practice this new skill. And then how do you go from having a job that has table football and bean bags to, hey, I want to do this on my own?
Redundancy was part of it, actually. So yeah, so kind of
okay, but instead of going to try to find another job, which we know you could have done, why choose going out on your own and doing this? Because that is a different kind of path. Obviously, because there were people that you go back to now and are like, hey, do you need this? That were old places that you were employed, and now they use you and they're some of your clients, right? So you've left jobs with beautiful recommendations with friends that really don't want you to go, but now you're able to work with them and continue to help them. But again, that's something else that you should never burn bridges, I believe. And you never know when a client is going to be a client again, or a old boss might be a client. But when did you decide, or what was there this inkling that you were like, I want to have my own beanbag chairs or something?
It actually didn't really start like that. I think there are probably lots of people that set up on their own that have this like this fire or this hunger or whatever it might be to be independent. And at the time I started this, I didn't really have that. So essentially, I was given notice of redundancy and I had 3 months to work before I left, and I was put in charge of a new project before I left. And as part of that, they needed some animations for some learning modules. So I said, oh, I've got some time. I've made my project management spreadsheet. I've got some time. Can I have a go at these? And so when I started that, the animations, I think, are probably my favorite thing that I do out of all my different services, I guess, or the things that I've learned, maybe because they're more animated and I am too, so that we kind of go together. I don't know, but I really enjoyed these things, and I thought, you know what, maybe I can do something around this creative thing that isn't just me being creative at home or making these duvet cover dresses. I can do something that's an actual paid job. So when I was given notice of redundancy, I had very lucky, I guess. I had other people that I knew that I'd been working with. And one of those was a charity based in Brighton. And the chief executive offered me a part-time role. She said, we can't afford you full-time, but if you would like to come and work with us. So I'd already done loads of amazing work with them out in the community anyway. She basically lured me in because she said I get to work with old people. And I really love octogenarians. I'm like, if I meet a Beryl, I'm like, I want to hear a life story. Tell me everything. So she said, we'll let you hang out with as many old people as you want and you can do some community work and it'll be lovely. So I was like, sold. But then I needed another part-time job. And I happened to have, around the same time, there was an organization in Brighton that hosted a recruitment day for creative industries. So they had some agencies there, and they were, talking about how to get into creative positions and, graphic design or whatever it might be. So I went along and I made this animated CV because I thought, well, I can't give them my normal one. So I had this little on my phone, and I printed it out as like a comic strip. This little animation of me, and I think the bit where I was showing my skills or something, I think I had like a filing cabinet in my animated brain or something. I had all the bits going into it. But I took this and kindly shoved my phone in a couple of people's faces and was like, can I come work for you? That'd be really great. Can I come and do that? And they said, well, that's lovely. And we do really like the animation, but we don't have part-time jobs. So I thought, well, if I can't get a part-time job at any of these agencies, and I do want to go and, work with the older people as well, that would be a really nice thing to do. I'll have to maybe just set up as a freelancer, and then maybe I can get work with those agencies. I'd never really considered it before. I never had that as a plan. But I thought if that's the way that facilitates me getting to do creative work with some of those agencies, was my initial thinking, maybe I'll try that. But obviously it's turned into, well, full-time freelance for coming up 2 years now. So probably need another cake, I think, for that one too. And then working with all of my old colleagues and, lovely new clients as well. But getting to do this, and I don't tend to work with agencies very often. I'm kind of an agency in my own right, I guess, basically.
You are. So then by doing the animation, Alan also started out as just a graphic designer, but then has also done illustrations and animations. So he will relate. How does somebody go from, I think I can do this? This is in this last job where you had 3 months before you were let go, you were like, I'm going to practice and I'm going to solve this problem for the company, but I'm going to also learn a new skill. And you also are a writer too. So this is not, those are absolutely awesome skills together. The illustration, the condensing information, because you have to do that in animation. And then the animation on top of that, animations can be they're time consuming. I mean, they can be really it took 3 hours to, I always think about Wallace and Gromit, and they were like 7 years for 30 minutes. And I'm like, what? That's a lot, but the animations speak to you because why? Like, what is that just scratches all? Is it that it does have the writing and the illustration and then the movement?
I think, yeah, probably very, very simply, color and shape, probably like moving around, that kind of like a shiny magpie kind of thing. But I think also, yeah. So when I started, as you were saying, that kind of condensing information and the writing and the animation and so on, I was trying to pull together and think, what does all this stuff have in common? What am I offering people? Because I can't just go, can't go up to people for a start, just shoving my phone in their face, and then also not have like a consistent offer or a clear explanation as to like what I can do to help them. And that's certainly how it started. And since then, because I've grown this thing and people know me, this is when I do get stuck in stuff that's not technically on my service list, but I've got that foundation, I guess, of this is what I'm focusing on as a core. And initially it was about simplicity. So I think that was probably influenced partly by where I was working at the time, the NHS organisation, because they were really focused on making stuff simple as well, because they wanted patients to be able to access what they needed. But the kind of simplicity aspect since then has grown for me, because I realized how passionate I am about accessibility and inclusion for all demographic groups, basically, because I've got a lot of privilege in my life, and I want to use that to amplify and include people and share their lived experiences and lift up voices and all these things that are really important. And my animations I particularly like because they're a really useful way of sharing information that's more accessible to lots and lots of people. But also when I make my characters for those, I'm really conscious about diversity, like positive representation, and getting to create characters that look like lots and lots of different people. So one example of getting to use that in a way that I found so, affirming. My first contract I got with an organization that wasn't someone I'd worked with. So I didn't have any, friends there or any kind of previous, they didn't know who I was. Was with a charity called the Black Curriculum, who they're working to get more Black British history into the UK school curriculum, because I wasn't taught about that. All my history notes, all my many, many notebooks of notes, we didn't get taught about really important events from our history, amazing things done by Black people in British history. It's just all glossed over and they don't mention it. But I got to work with the Black Curriculum to make a series of animations about those events, those people, and those are now shown in schools around the UK. But also it means that children within those schools that have a background that kind of relates to the people in those stories, they can see people like themselves and their ancestors and their history represented in the curriculum. And that's so important, because that's part of who they are, and getting to see someone like yourself on TV or whatever it might be. It's a huge part of finding your kind of people, isn't it? I guess in the same way that obviously neurodivergence, finding other people that have got a similar experience or whatever, you feel like you're a little bit more understood and things as well, I think.
Well, it also helps to paint the picture better for everybody, that this wasn't done without, everybody has a role, and this is what was happening over here. And at the same time, this was happening here, and this was happening. And these could be different demographics or different, even, I love that you love old people, sometimes they're like, oh, we'll just push the old people out and they won't know, or whatever it is. Right. When you go out on your own, and you start freelancing, you were offering animation, writing, and graphic recording.
And graphic design and infographics as well, because why only do 3?
So then how did it end up so you get some jobs that people have not, they just saw your work or you met them, and then they just are like, yeah, we want to work with you. And then some, it's you're connecting with other people that you've worked with in the past. And maybe they're at different jobs even, but it's the people. You're contacting the old company, but you're also contacting the people. So sometimes it can be very hard to just continually putting yourself out there. And I think about when you were saying, oh, we don't have any positions right now, or we don't have part-time employment. Then you had in your head, you were like, oh, okay, well, I need to do something where it's not full-time, it's not part-time. I can just be a solution for them when they need this. So then how do you keep going? Because you do have great energy, but I'm sure you meet a lot of people, and then they start understanding more about what you do. And it is this kind of building of a relationship. And I think that is the way we all have, especially like if you're doing something that takes somebody a long time, or you're like, they're going to be doing an event. Well, the event is only once a year, it's only twice a year, and it's, 6 months away. So they've heard about you, and now you have this new 6 month kind of courtship that you do. It can, for a lot of us, get really like, no, I went to this networking, I didn't meet anybody, or I met people and I haven't gotten any jobs from this. I think sometimes it's like we just have to keep going and keep putting ourselves out there. But it can be hard. It can be hard to keep going. What was I know we haven't even gotten to any of the questions here, sorry, but how do you do that and stay positive and just keep going out there?
It is hard. You described exactly what it is about that kind of continuity and so on, of just going out and meeting people. So when I first started, partly because I work so quickly, sometimes I'll get a project and I'll have finished it within 24 or 48 hours, especially when I'm getting really into something. I'm quite happy to sit there for 8 hours at a time and think I should probably have some water, or, stand up or something. Like some point during that, hyper focusing, I'm doing this thing. And my partner works shifts and was incredibly supportive about the fact that for those first couple of, 6 months or so, I would finish a project and immediately panic. Oh my goodness, my business is failing. I haven't got any work. I'd text and be like, oh my goodness, that's it. My business is a failure. And then sometimes before he'd even woken up again or, finished his shift, I'd say, oh no, someone's got in touch. Actually, it's fine. And that didn't always happen, but just initially that kind of the roller coaster of freelance, and it's not definite, you're kind of,
and it does feel like that. It's like, I got one and you're so excited. And then you finish it and you're like, I don't know if anyone's going to, and it's hard. And Brighton's not that huge. I mean, it's bigger than the town maybe you grew up in, but it's not as big as London, right? But it's like, how are you able to just even there's another networking thing and you're like, I don't want to go, because you're inside, you're an introvert, but you're having to play the extrovert because this is a really important part of what do you say to yourself to get you to go to that thing, to that event?
Okay. So I'm a huge extrovert, so I feel like it's not fair for me to be like, this is a really easy thing to do, because I know that it's not. And I know that I found networking intimidating when I first started, and I love chatting to people. So I'm introverts, I'm so proud of all of you for getting out of there and talking to people, because it feels really intense. And it feels very different, I think, to just going out and chatting to someone normally, because or it certainly is me to start off with, because it feels like an agenda, and yes, you have to leave a bit about your business, and that can feel really icky. What I've learned over time that seems to be working for me and makes me feel a lot more comfortable at doing it, I don't really talk about my work. If someone asks me what I do, I will tell them. But I basically do what I've always done. I will chat to people and ask them nosy questions about their life, because I'm incredibly nosy. And then I'll probably give them solutions to another problem they mention that has nothing to do with anything. But if I think of something, I'll be like, oh, you should, whether it's introduce them to someone else in the room. Sometimes it's work related, but sometimes I'm like, oh, have you ever tried this really good sun cream? It doesn't get I've got a really good sun cream recommendation. So it's not just that, or it might be like, oh, are you going to Brighton for ice cream next week? This is the place you should go to get ice cream. So I think people get to know you if you go out and you do those kind of things, and you do build those relationships. From my perspective about doing that, I think people get to know that I'm good at solving problems. And then if they have a problem that's to do with the work I actually do, they're maybe more likely to come to me. But something about networking that I also find really interesting is that people who get to know you will recommend you to other people for what you do, even if they've never worked with you on that. So for all they know, you might be rubbish at it. I'm not rubbish. I'm very proud of the fact I've worked really hard at this, and I've shaken that imposter syndrome. But they will go, if they hear of somebody that needs something about what you do, they'll be like, oh, Katie's amazing. Katie's amazing at this thing. They don't know if I'm amazing at that thing. They know I'm good at solving their problem about sun cream, and they know that I'm good at listening to them and asking questions about how their daughter's swimming lessons are going or whatever it might be. But that's, I think, the way that I've found it less uncomfortable to go to those kinds of things. And also it can feel cliquey and a little bit difficult to kind of like ingrain in other people's conversations. But I think my top tip probably if you go to something like that is to just try and dive right in. Don't overthink it. Just go in, pick someone that looks friendly and just go and start chatting to them about whatever you can. And then maybe someone else will come and join you. You can kind of go from there. Because I think if you start the event and you kind of stand at the side and feel really awkward, it can feel harder and harder to kind of get stuck in. So, and also everyone's there on their own normally anyway. And even people that look like they know each other, they might not, they might have just met, or it might be that they've met at other networking events, but everyone's out there and they're all trying to be friendly and nice to each other. So if you start doing that, before you know it, you'll have people that you know at those events as well, and it won't feel quite so scary.
I love that. Okay, so then how did Pippa see your sketchbook then? So you're at this networking because she met you at a networking, and then how did she see your sketchbook? Because so this why I ask is because we go to these networking events where we're with other business people, we're not necessarily with other artists or creatives or designers. And somehow you have found a way to integrate, or like maybe you're just like, this is what I do. And then you put it down or something.
Yeah, that one. Basically, yeah, sometimes that one. I just have it with me because I do like having it with me because I don't have a good memory. I use my phone. I've got Trello for like organizing stuff. Yeah, there you go. There we go. Pippa said, just like flash it to people. Like it's just the intrigue, isn't it? Basically, of just like, this is what I do.
Do you have something flagged like you do for the one that you were going to show us some things in there? You had like some bookmarks.
No, I tend to just pick like one at random. So yeah, but that's the one. That's my latest one. So that's where I'm up to at the moment. So I did use this actually in a workshop the other day. Because I'm working at the moment on something with charity. Again, a bit different, the problem solving thing. They support young people who are experiencing homelessness and they want to create some artwork about their values, but they put out a tender and they wanted people to bid for it and involve the young people. So I said, I would love to run some workshops where we basically create the artwork that I would normally kind of make, like an infographic poster, but I want all the young people to do some drawings or some collages or whatever, and we'll kind of incorporate that. It's not what I normally do at all, but that's a really like fun way for them to get involved and also have a bit of creative time in a kind of week where they maybe have a lot of other priorities going on, but they've got a space then to come and like get to be creative. But yeah, this one I did at the first workshop, and then I handed like copies round to the participants at the second one, and I said, you don't have to do any of my drawings, you can do your own. But I realized it's asking a lot for people to, if they don't think that way, to kind of come up with an idea.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't have like one particular example. I think, yeah, Pippa just got whatever random page there was.
Well, and then she said, then because you showed it, then they asked you to just show more. And I think that that's something that maybe we're not great at, is just being prepared to show what we do. Even when you were saying, oh, I have this animation of my CV on my phone. Hey, do you want to see? And I think that because you're really not focusing on, you're like, hey, it's all about me, Katie. You're really focusing on the other people. But then you also are like, hey, here's 10 seconds, 15 seconds. This is my CV. This is what I could do. So you're not taking them 3 minutes or 30 minutes on something. It's easy for you to just hit play. They can watch it, but you were ready. You were ready with the graphic recording. You're ready with this. You could maybe give an example of how you would write something like a website or, materials, or even now with this workshop, it's, again, you're always solving a problem. You're something and you're involving people. You're asking the people who are the audience, which I think is marketing. It's so smart that you're getting those users involved. So I love that.
I think I just like a creative solution. So some networking events I go to, if we get 30 seconds or a minute to do our pitch, I've got an animation I'll play instead that's got a little cartoon of me that tells people about what I do. And I've just made myself some new business cards and I've illustrated them with what I do. So rather than just a printed thing, like any excuse basically to wedge some marketing in there in a way. But I really enjoy it because, I spent like a day illustrating whatever it is, and then that's my business card. I think I'm very lucky in that I work in such a visual way, in a visual sector. It's really easy to show people what I do rather than tell them.
It's also impactful that we remember it because it was so different than everybody else's, right? which I think is
Images are
great.
more memorable as well. I think
Yeah, yeah.
like studies have shown that you remember pictures more than words. So
Right.
yeah, it's a good thing to do.
Is there anything else in your sketchbook that you wanted to show us before we
No, I
go?
think that's fine. Like they say, those are kind of
Okay,
that's the sort
good.
of stuff I basically do at any meeting or event, or like one-to-ones and that kind of stuff. So yeah, just a bit of doodling in a marker pen, basically.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being so willing to share. Thank you for talking fast because I also talk fast. It's so nice.
Thank
I
you for having me.
love that one question I didn't get to ask was your ability to get on board.
Mm.
And on board that is maybe some stuff it's more bland, like we have to write these contracts or we have to figure out how to use this accounting program or better or whatever. How are you able, because I feel like this is a problem for some people, but it's a real asset for people who this isn't a problem for. They're able to just get on board, like here and like, oh, I want to solve this. Oh, I want to help you. How do
Mm.
you, how do you, how do you do that? How is that how you've always been, is able to just like, do you know what I'm asking? Like
Yeah,
you're just
yeah.
enthusiastic about the old people, or if that's what they're into, you're enthusiastic about this health service that they're offering, that they like, you're like, yes, let's solve it. How is that just innate to you?
No, there's certainly things I'm not enthusiastic about. If someone asked me to go camping, I don't think I'd be very enthusiastic about that. I'm very much an indoor person. So I'm not enthusiastic about everything, but I am enthusiastic. I love people who are passionate about what they do and they tell me about that. And I love hearing people talk about that, whatever that is. So I guess that's something that really helps me work with all these different clients. Because even if they're working on like tarmacking the road, I'm like, tell me more. Like, you obviously are really into like tarmacking. How does this work? So I think that like curiosity is part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe also because I do like helping people. That's like, that sounds very, I don't know, naive or whatever it is, but like that kind of that motivation comes partly from, yeah, I might be writing a contract and the contract itself isn't very interesting, but this is going to help these people get healthcare, or this animation about how to access like an appointment is going to make sure that people are coming in prepared and not feeling anxious about not knowing what to expect and making sure they're getting the right treatment. So I guess I'm very privileged in that I get to work with organizations that are doing a lot of good. So it's easier to get motivated, I guess, about that. And that's probably, it's something I've never had to turn away before anyway. But I guess if I was going to be picky about clients, I want to work with people that are doing social good, environmental good, whatever that might be. And it's a lot easier to get enthusiastic about a charity that's working with local, like grassroots organizations to start community groups, I think, than, yeah. I'm not going to mention any names of, yeah.
Yeah, with things that you also value. So with companies that share similar values, or that are making the world a better place. Not that some people are like, oh, we're going to make the world a bad place. You want to work? I mean, they're not, nobody's coming at it like that. But it's about those shared values and them being able to communicate what their value is, and then you being able to recognize, hey, that's something I really believe in too.
Mm-hmm.
And those are great things to talk about at a networking event, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So what would be next? What would be the thing that you would love to be able to focus on in the future? Is it more of those social good projects?
I've got a thing I really want to work with like children's museums and stuff for children, because I think having not paid attention in science, like maybe it's time I learn about, I know gravity's a thing, but kind of getting to work, because I sometimes go to children's museums, sometimes with a niece or nephew, sometimes just on my own to like take part, to press all the levers and whatever. But I just think they're such a great space, and like having interesting ways to engage with that information, and ways that are more accessible, because written information just isn't accessible for everybody. So I'd love to write the little blurbs about the displays, but also having other ways of like interacting with that stuff, I think would be really cool. Yeah, there's a TV show over here, I think, called like Maddie Explains It. It's basically my niece thinks me and this woman on TV should be friends because we both have yellow hair is the reason that we should be friends. But this woman basically explains how scientific stuff works in a way that children understand. So like revolving doors and stuff. And it's just fascinating. But getting to do stuff like that, I think, where I kind of explain concepts to kids, I think I'd really enjoy.
That's cool. Do you ever share that when you're at a networking event?
I have on occasion before, but yeah, maybe I need to be more proactive about doing that as well.
Because then somebody who loves you already is like, oh my gosh, I know somebody who works at this. You know, like I feel like if we don't share our dream, then how will these people who love you help you make it happen? So anyway, that'll be my one encouragement for you is tell more people, because I think in a year you'll be like, oh yeah, I'm doing the Children's Museum.
You never know. Definitely. Yeah, I'll ask people if they know anyone who knows about gravity, and we'll kind of go from there, I reckon. Yeah.
I love that. That's great. Oh, even in your 1 minute animation, adding something like what I just think we all should do more of that, of thinking about what we want to do and then saying it out loud, because unless we say it, we don't really do it. So I'm really glad you told us, and I can't wait to catch back up with you in a year and see, hopefully you get that Children's Museum or multiple things that are explaining science and making it for kids that more people want to go and participate. So I love that.
Oh yeah, I'll be like, Lucy, this lamp, I wired that. Be like, I've done that myself now.
I don't need Nick anymore, right?
Exactly.
So I want to make sure everybody knows how to get in touch with you. They can always, if you're watching this on YouTube, it's the first links. If you're listening to this on wherever you get your podcast, it's the first links at the top. And then the rest of the show notes are right underneath. But you can get in touch with her on linkedin.com/company/communicate, COMMUNIKATE-design-limited, or you can go to her website, communicate with a KATE, not the other way to spell it, the wrong way, I guess. I love that you're changing it to be the right way, the communicate with a KATE, bringing your name in it, .design, communicate.design. And I hope you guys will reach out, and I hope you were inspired. Katie, thank you so much for being our 12-year birthday anniversary episode. And it's episode 472. So that's great. And I just appreciate your time and just the willingness you are to share all these little tips, but also your story, which gives people hope that they can really be themselves. They can get things done early and start working on something else. And maybe that is their gift, that they don't just have to fake it, and they actually can keep going. And anyway, I hope lots of people get in touch with you and because you could do remote, you could do a event if it was like, say it was in the United States and doing graphic recording. If the whole event's on Zoom, you could do the graphic recording on Zoom. So
yeah. Thank you so much for having me, and happy 12 years as well. It's been an honor.
I'm very glad to have had you. I hope that you guys will come back, not next week, because next week I'm at my dad's, but I will be back on the 19th. I have to look at on the 19th. Damien is hopefully going to be back, and we'll be doing the inspiration, and then we'll continue on with our sketchbook series. Katie, thank you so much for doing this with me today, and thank you for just sharing your story. I love it, and I can't wait to ask you in a year about Children's Museum.
Yeah, you can book me in for your 13th birthday.
That's right. You'll be our yearly anniversary. That's right. I love it.
Perfect. Wonderful.
All right.